Well, hello guys. Welcome back to the Buffy the Vampire Slayer book club. This is Ariel, and this is the channel. I wanted to start off by saying that I tried. If you the first introduction to the channel that I made last week was uploaded to another platform, but I'm going to have this one uploaded to YouTube. The other platform is a little bit more professional, and it kind of makes it easier to do some of the video editing functions. But I don't know if it has a lot of what the reach is. So I'm going to go back and forth and see what the best results are. But for now, this one's going to be on the YouTube and platform. And today we are taking a look at a quick look because I don't really want to spend too much time. I'm making like hour-long videos. This kind of just like snippets to promote the book club and to promote the stream that we're gonna have probably at the end of the month. Or wait, it's the beginning of the month, so probably at the middle of the month sometime. I just want to build it up a couple of weeks or get a couple of videos under our belt. But today I'm going to be talking about this book, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Evil That Men Do. And it is a book written by Nancy Holder, who she's an author that is would be very familiar to Buffy fans. You know, she's written a number of she pretty much does novelizations of a lot of different TV shows, and she has been doing that for years. She wrote the Monster book, the bunch of Buffy novels in the late '90s and early 2000s, and I right now I think her newest work. I saw her tweeting about Wonder Woman, so I think she did a novelization to the Wonder Woman movies. So she's a very well known writer. Just a quick bio from her website. New York Times bestselling author Nancy Holder was born in Palo Alto. A Navy brat, she went to middle school in Japan. When she was 16, she dropped out of high school to become a ballet dancer in Cologne, Germany. An injury at 18 ended that possible career. Eventually, she returned to California and graduated from the University of California at San Diego, excuse me, with a degree in communications. Um, so she was in San Diego. I was um I was wrong about this novel. I thought it was one of the early novels, but it turns out that it was released in July of 2000. And the year 2000 was a very popular year for Buffy and for Angel, of course. Buffy was in its going at the height of its popularity on the WB channel, and all the fans that know about the show know this already. But this book, the setting of I would place it around the um, the year it takes place during the high school years, and it takes place when the gang was in the senior year of high school. So I place it around 1999 because, as everybody knows, Buffy was a class of 19 Sunnydale class of 99. And actually that makes sense because the book was supposed to come out in 1999, a year earlier, but it was delayed by an entire year by the Columbine shooting, um, which I also found interesting because you know, the Wikipedia says that the book was originally supposed to be released in July of '99, but was postponed due to the Columbine high school massacre. And I do remember how a couple of the episodes of the show were preempted from the network was nervous because you know, Earshot, one of the third season episodes, Earshot was not even shown, so it was shown out of order. And the same thing I think for the finale, which was the third season finale, which was Graduation Day Part Two, and because both of those had to do with well, especially Earshot, people know the show had to do with a mass shooting in schools. And it's crazy how, to me, how 20 odd years later, 23 years later, and we're still having the same problem. It hasn't really been addressed in America, which is really sad. But be that as it may, I remember being kind of immature at the time, and I didn't really understand why the network had to pull the the episode after the tragedy. I mean, I understood it from an intellectual, but emotionally, I just wanted to see the show continue in order. And so we had to wait until there was no streaming back then. So if you missed an episode, you had to wait for a repeat. The network would repeat it, that type of thing. And then it took the narrative out of the flow because there was one episode. And granted, the one episode they pulled was not vital to the ongoing narrative because Buffy was one of the few shows or one of the pioneers of shows where they would have it was episodic, but there was also a big long series arc narrative. Other shows like Smallville and other sci-fi shows have done that since. In the beginning, Buffy was like the X Files, where it was like more Monster of the Week. But then in later seasons, I think it was one of the shows that pioneered this format, and it was very inventive in the way that there was always like a big bad, sort of like, and a big narrative going on throughout the season. It starts off with some introductions to characters and plots, and then there's character progression, and at the end of the season, there's this big climax, and usually it had to do with Buffy and the gang fighting a big, what they call the big bad or the big villain, kind of like video game concept, right? It builds up, the tension builds up, and sometimes the big bad shows up during the season. Sometimes we don't even see who it is until closer to the end of the season. Um, but anyway, that's what it was. And in this book, interestingly enough, I haven't read the whole thing. I read like maybe close to a half of it. I think I read like 7 chapters so far. It's about 20 chapters, so I'm about not even halfway done, or chapter 8 or something like that. But it's very interesting so far. I wouldn't say that it's the most gripping story that I've read on the Buffy universe, but I will say that Nancy Holder does, because she obviously watches the show and was a fan of the show and knows the characters inside and out. She makes a lot of references to the things that only like Easter eggs, right? So if you're a Buffy viewer, an Angel viewer, things like Buffy's stuffed pig is Mr. Gordo. So she makes allusions to Mr. Gordo and things like that that only a real fan would know. And so if you come to the book without any prior knowledge of the Buffy universe and the characters, you can still enjoy it. But obviously, if you're a fan and you go through it, it's tailored for the fans, and it makes references to to things that we know about the characters. So she has the characters down really well. There's some things that seem out of character, especially in the early part, but that's more due to the plot of the book, of the story. And the plot, I made some notes about that. Basically, after a vicious shooting spree by Brian D'Alessandro, who's a straight A student, the town of Sunnydale goes into a state of shock. Though not one everyone would expect, they turn on each other and become nasty. At the same time, Helen, an ancient vicious vampire over 1,500 years old, has come to Sunnydale. She has hunted and killed every single slayer she has ever met in her life, and Buffy is next on her list. Helen and her lover Julian have come to Sunnydale to raise Meter. Meter is a goddess of destruction, and to do what they need, then to do that, they need the heart of the Slayer and the ashes of the Emperor Caligula from way back when in 47 A.D. So that's interesting. I like it when they mix historical uh, events with fiction, like I talk about Caligula and those ancient times. And Buffy. One of the interesting things about Buffy as a genre is that it does tend to make its own mythology, but it also combines, because it's monsters, right? It's like supernatural stuff, and it combines like uh, existing mythology with the mythology from the show. So I think that's pretty interesting. Um, the book is, I like it. It's a page turner. Nancy Holder definitely pulls all the stops and the tricks. She's pretty good at having those end of the chapter cliffhanger so that you keep turning. But I think the main issue that I have with the book is the big bad, the antagonist, the couple of vampires. I think even Buffy says at one point in during one of a very intense chapter where they're going through some action sequences, There's a truck involved that catches fire. There's a lot going on in that chapter. But then finally the big bad, one of the big bats, which is this ancient vampire, Helen, I guess is her name, introduces herself and she says, "What? That's what I'm dealing with, like just a couple, just a regular vampires." And I think that kind of sums it up for me. It's like there's not a whole lot that's special about the big bads, and it's not. I mean, I think Nancy Holder does a good job of keeping again, really knowing what the character, how the characters would act in each situation. But the antagonists are kind of so far kind of underwhelming. I mean, they have historical ties and they have some interesting backdrops or backstories. I should say their backstories are somewhat interesting, but I don't know if it's enough, for them to be super memorable. And in fact, I'm gonna read a review from a reader that I found on a site, and it says Buffy and the Slayerettes take a bit of a backseat to the big bad, which is the couple of Julian and Helen, who are vampires from the Roman times of Caligula. Julian is an older vampire, intelligent, manipulative, and slightly swayed by beautiful women. Helen was quite normal and wasn't deserving of her fate. I don't know what her fate is because I haven't read the whole book. But madness, determination, and Julian turned her into a vampire. Oh, I guess he means she wasn't deserving of being turned into a vampire. Okay. Madness, determination, and Julian turned her into a vampire that even Angel fears. Holder seems to understand man very well. Sometimes someone could live for hundreds of years and still make the same mistakes because it's almost impossible to escape your true essence. So many bad things happen to the Scooby Gang: shootings, beatings, and mind control, uncontrollable rage, captivity, riots, and near drownings. It's a bit much, but the current Sunnydale storyline intermingled with the Roman times were equally captivating. Great job, Holder. 5 stars for your effort. And I would say at this point that that's one thing I neglected to do on episode 1, or the initial episode of this series of the book club, is I didn't give a rating to the comic book that I had, and I'm gonna go back and I liked it. So that one got 4 stakes, 4 out of 5 stakes. That's gonna be the measure. This one so far, I'm leaning towards 2 or 3. It's not bad, but like I said, so far, there's interesting things happening throughout the story, and the characterization is usually good. There's some people that I read don't like it because the characters seem to be acting out of character in some instances, but that's the point, right? I mean, if there's mind control and the vampires are controlling their actions, then you can't really fault the writer for that. It's part of the plot. So I don't know. I like it. It's not. I've read other Buffy stories, and this one so far is not my favorite. And it's definitely not my favorite from the Nancy Holder uh, collection. I guess the Nancy Holder series of novels, because like I said, she's done Buffy a lot and she's done other shows that I like. So I'm gonna keep reading, and then I will reserve my final rating for when I do. And I guess we'll just the one last thing I want to say is that there is one page in here. I think it's on page 95 of the book where Xander is talking to one of his teachers, and they're kind of fighting because of the mind control that has been happening throughout the book. And then she says something about his brother, and that really kind of stopped me in my tracks, because I have watched the whole Buffy series, and I don't remember there being a mention of Xander having a brother. In fact, I think it was pretty clear that he was an only child. And I know these books are not canon; they're not considered canon. They do get reviewed by Joss Whedon and some of the show's producers, but a lot of the times the writers have poetic license and they can do whatever they want with the characters as long as they're still recognizable and it's not too far fetched. But I don't know. I may have missed it, but as far as I know, Xander has never had a brother. So the mention of his brother, because the teacher was talking about how they were very much alike. I guess she thought his brother before is the premise. That kind of pulled me out a little bit, because I had to I stopped and researched it. I I don't ever remember Xander having a brother. Maybe you guys do. I'm not sure. You could leave a Oh well, I don't. Yeah, you can leave a comment or let me know. But I'm fairly sure as a Buffy fan that Xander is an only child. But other than that, I didn't find any major flaws or things that pulled me out of the book. It is a page turner, like I said. So far, I'm only like a quarter, not even half to it. I think chapter 8, like I mentioned, is like 20 chapters. I'll keep reading, but it's not super compelling. I guess it's my point. It's enjoyable, but it's not the best so far. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys now. Thank you for um, tuning in again, and I hope you come back. If you like this video, this one you can actually like, hit the like or subscribe, I guess, because the other platform doesn't have that option. I forgot. It was my bad. All right, so I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and keep watching, because we're gonna have a live stream pretty soon, and then I hope that a lot of you will want to participate in this ongoing Buffy the Vampire Slayer / Angel book club, digital book club. Till then.